Hello, I'm Joel Blackford with Beth Hassett Sabbath Fellowship. Thank you for joining us. We're virtual only. We're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The phone number works if you'd like to contact us. We do the thought behind the thought, philosophy of eschatology, what you need to know, your reality or existence. John Haller does the best job on the news. I try to do a magazine. This magazine is going to be on solving this piece of Revelation, which is Revelation chapter 6 and the sixth seal, which relates to the blood moon eclipses that are coming up next month. So I'm rather excited about that. I reached out to Mark Biltz, my friend, and said, let's get together and talk about it because I have new notes and he does too. So the blood moon eclipse, I'm saying it has to coincide with the micronova coming up or some kind of a solar eruption. We'll see if I can prove it today with my type of information, which is physics and the Bible. So the Bible is replete with many signs. We have the sun, the moon, the stars. They're given to us in Genesis 1:14. So that would be signs, otot, seasons, moedim, and for days and for years. Okay, fine, Shana and Yom and Shana. So obviously they're meaningful. And we hear in the end times in Matthew 24:29 and from Joel chapter 2 or 3, depending upon Christian or Jewish Bibles, that there will be these huge signs in the sun shall be turned to darkness before the coming of the great day of the Lord. So in Matthew 24:29, all of these signs, things like that. So what are we talking about? We're talking about what's coming up, people. It seems like those signs are beginning to occur. And I'm saying you have to see a sync between the sun and the moon. So the sun would have a micronova effect, a dust effect, we'll say, and the moon would need to be blood. We try not to twist the Bible. We try to give you real prophecy. We try to give you the news as properly cited. So this news right now is that on March 13th and 14th of 2025, we will have a total lunar eclipse that will be very visible over the United States. And so an eclipse of the sun would be different than an eclipse of the moon. The sun can only be eclipsed on a new moon, and a blood moon eclipse can only occur on the full moon in the middle of the lunar month. And so it depends upon if the Earth is occluding the moon or the moon is occluding the Earth. But it's very interesting how the shapes work. Somebody designed this, God did. So basically, I'm saying this is the first phase of something coming up. This will be interesting because we have 9 of them coming up. 3, then 2, then 4. A tetrad, but not a real tetrad, how I grade it towards the end there. So once again, I'm citing that you need syncing between this problem with the sun, and I'm calling it dust, and I'll give you more reasons. And so the sun would turn mohair black. That's what the Bible literally says. And the moon eclipses blood. So I'm going to give you the reasons for those. And most people don't realize that you can't have the sun and the moon eclipse at the same time, or they don't understand that just because fires are occurring on the earth or volcanoes or whatever else, that this is a physics experiment, people, okay? So a total eclipse when the entire moon is shadowed is best of all. The face of the moon turns sunset red for up to an hour or more as the eclipse slowly unfolds. Okay, so once again, things are happening. We're getting back into this possibility where the sinking could occur. And so 3 blood moons are coming soon, and you won't believe when the first one hits. That's from CBN News, and that's from 1/6 of 2025. These tetrads are interesting. I'll show you more signs from this, but we've seen Columbus sailing in 1492, and then as soon as he gets back with the Ides of May storm, then the tetrad kicks off in 1493, 1494. 1949, 1950, as soon as the war ends, basically the tetrad kicks off in 1949 after 1948. And then 67, 68 in the midst of that amazing time frame when the Jews handed back the Temple Mount. Oh, my vey. So bottom line is these are interesting, and this article is stating that we've got a bunch of them coming up. And then they cite again from 2032 and 2033, we will have these interesting solar eclipses also, but the lunar eclipses are coming up. It's a pack of them. So let's discuss. Once again, this is what it looks like in my graphic, which is a couple in 25, 1 in 26, 1 in 28, 1 in 29, but there's a gap, and then a gap again to 32 and 33. Very interesting. I want you to be aware also that I'm thinking that it would have to sync with the sun turning from yellow to white to red to black as dust comes. And I'll give you the reasons why as we go through. Once again, the tetrad is, according to NASA, Usually, lunar eclipses come in no particular order. A partial can be followed by a total, followed by a prenumbral, and so on. Anything goes. Occasionally, though, the sequence is more orderly when 4 consecutive lunar eclipses are all total. The series is called a tetrad. Now, I argue it should be Passover, Sukkot, but you know what? Sometimes you take what you can get. The guy that discovered this, my friend Mark Biltz, wonderful guy. He did not date set. He didn't say anything other than just watch, okay? Which is a good thing to do. Read your Bible and watch. So he wrote the book later on. Another person, and I won't state names because there are some lawsuits involved, stated exact rapture dates for this occurrence. And he was wrong. But he didn't do any research. Mark did all the research. He's a wonderful guy. I love him dearly. So let's continue on. This is an article. This is what I want to prove as we move through this video. Blood moon tetrad occurred during Noah's time, Egypt, Jacob, David. This is an article from, we'll just call it Blood Moon Tetrads on Passover and Tabernacles from 2017 from Dean Coombs. Okay, so let's just discuss it. Did you know that the very first tetrad occurred about the time of Noah's flood? No, I did not know that. That's interesting. I wish he would have cited it better, but that's fine. Another on the exact day, maybe I'll contact the guy and see what he says. Another on the exact day when Israel entered Egypt, and that's per the Septuagint, and the Exodus in 1447 BCE. Interesting. We'll explore that. Another was when Jacob died. Interesting. And then prophesied the coming of King David in our future, and exactly when King David became king, and also Saul and Solomon. So interesting. Then 168 BCE, Hanukkah tetrad, the abomination that causes desolation. So it seems to coincide with important events. Once again, 1493, 1494. I'm saying 1539 and 1540. Those are not blood moon eclipses, but they are eclipses that occurred on those days. And so that was when Sulieman was rebuilding the streets and the walls and things like that in Jerusalem, and he was being chased by lions. Do you get the symbolism? So then the other ones, 1949, 1950, sure, we talked about that, 1967, 68, Jerusalem War, of course, 2014, 2015, nothing much happened there. But it's still interesting. We're supposed to, I think God was saying to us, nothing's going to happen this time. You just need to start watching. My personal opinion is that started out the last of the Shemitah cycles, okay, in 2017, okay? But we'll see. We'll see about that. Not a tetrad in 2032 or 2033 by my reckoning, but it's still a four-peat. Again, is it scientific? No, not really. None of the research that you're reading right here is scientific, but it's interesting. And it leads credence to what I want to present, which is that it seems like Moses alerted Pharaoh of what was going on. And you can see Pharaoh crouching there in the bulrushes by the Nile. And he's doing his morning constitution, so to speak. So he's squatting. And Moses catches him because gods don't poo. Okay, so Mishnah Edut 2:10 states that the judgment upon the Egyptians prior to the Exodus took place over a span of 12 months. Now, it could be 18, could be 12, could be 10. I don't care, but it's interesting to see that it was based on months. And Moses arrived in Egypt from Midian around the 15th of Nisan. Interesting. And that would be potentially a blood moon eclipse, and it would be a full moon, and led his people out of Egypt on that same date, 1 year later. We are given a major timing clue in Exodus 7:25, which states that the first plague of blood lasted 1 full week. Rashi, Shlomo Itzhaki, comments that that the Torah is actually providing us with a general rule. All the plagues lasted a week. I'm arguing possibly, but definitely I think the warning was about a half a month, okay? Just as the first one did. Each plague was followed by a 3-week respite. I argue each plague was followed by a 1-week respite, okay? And warnings, but, they knew the next one was coming, and warnings, of course, before the next plague. This means the 10 plagues took place over 10 months. Interesting. I like that. So thank you. Unfortunately, I can't cite the source well enough because it's just too small. But basically, if you expand this, you can see I put the link down below. And so Over 10 months, yeah, with this in mind, we can reconstruct the entire timeline and make sense of why certain plagues occurred specifically when they did. And if you need that source, I can clip it and put it in another spot. Okay, warned on the new moon, plagued on the full moon. That's what I'm arguing, okay? So let's read Exodus 7:25 through 27. 7 days after Adonai had struck the river with blood, Adonai said to Moshe, "Go in to Pharaoh and say to him, here's what Adonai says, let my people go so that they can worship me. If they refuse to let them go, if you refuse to let them go, I will strike all your territory with frogs." So we know what's going on in terms of plagues and things like that. But I'm trying to set up a situation where it's warned on new moon, plagued on full moon. Okay. Once again, catching Pharaoh squatting down by the Nile. And you know what Pharaoh's doing because it's first thing in the morning. First three plagues affected Goshen too. The fourth is coming here. So this is Exodus 8:14 through 15. The magicians tried with their secret arts to produce lice, but they couldn't. There were lice on people and animals. Then the magicians said to Pharaoh, "This is the finger of God." But Pharaoh was made hard-hearted so that he didn't listen to them, just as Adonai had said would happen. So I'm saying he warned him on this new moon. You can barely see the sliver by Moses' left side there. But then Pharaoh, he's not supposed to poo, but then he is warned seemingly on a new moon. That would make sense. Okay. Then on the new moon again, Adonai said to Moses, "Get up early in the morning, stand before Pharaoh." You know, when he goes down to the water, and you know what Pharaoh's doing. Gods don't poo. And when he goes out to make water and brown stuff, and say to him, "Here's what Adonai says, let my people go so that they can worship me." Exodus 8:16. So then the fourth plague of insects hits. So I'm saying real gods don't poo hiding by the river, okay? And so Moses was calling him out in multiple ways, embarrassing him horribly. I mean, this is a death sentence if Pharaoh would really act on it. But also, the plague is coming. Okay, so there are reasons why he's doing this. New moon, full moon, I hope those work out, but I can't prove it. So then the judgment, we know this occurred, that it was on a full moon. Passover is always a full moon. So that's a moed that way. At midnight, Adonai killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, from the firstborn of Pharaoh sitting on his throne to the firstborn of the prisoner in the dungeon and the firstborn of the livestock. Pharaoh got up in the night, he, all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a horrendous wailing in Egypt, for there wasn't a single house without someone dead in it. Exodus 12:29 through 30. So we know that was a full moon. I'm arguing it was a blood moon. So here's my citation. Once again, I need to make these citations larger so that you can read what I'm citing. So I'll just have to put the citations in the body of my message here. Although the Bible never specifically identifies the Pharaoh by the Exodus by name, it does tell us the exact date of the Exodus. 1 Kings 6:1 states that Solomon began building the temple in the fourth year of his reign, 480 years after the Exodus. Most Bible scholars agree that the fourth year of Solomon's reign was 967 BC. I agree with that too. So the date of the Exodus can be calculated, 967 plus 480. Passover, April 15th, under a blood moon eclipse, 1447. Prove that out, Joel. I can't impart with the archaeologist because I got into a fight with an archaeologist already this morning over this, and because he wants it to be 1446. And I'm saying, sure, yeah, God's going to pull Moses and the Hebrews out under a playful little moon that's a partial. No. In 1447, you can see that with the red light, or the red highlight off to the left, and then over to the right-hand side, you see April 15th, and you see it's a total, and then coming back again in the fall on October 9th, again, it was a total blood moon, okay? Total. And so that makes more sense for 1447. So it's possible that Moses walked out of Egypt under a total blood moon eclipse of Passover of April 15th, 1447 BCE, and Yeshua died on a total blood moon eclipse of Passover of April 14th, 32 Common Era, and a set of these eclipses are due soon, a bunch of them. So it's just interesting. I'm trying to show you that it's possible that this was the case. There are upcoming blood moon eclipses all the way through 2025 to 2033. So interesting. So Obviously, I'm using AI to do these pictures, and obviously their stone isn't big enough, but it doesn't matter. This is a picture of Roman soldiers rolling about a 10-foot round stone to block Yeshua's cave that seems to be about a 6-foot high opening built into the hillside below a blood red moon eclipse of 4/14/32. Let's see if I can prove that. There it is right there. You can see. Now, this is from Second Passover Prophecy from Supernatural by Design. He's a rapture predictor, I'm sorry, but it's really good research on these types of prophecies and the dates. So what he helped me find was there it is in 32 Common Era, April 14th. It looks as though there's a total lunar eclipse, and that would make sense in terms of 32 Common Era. 30 I thought made a lot of sense, but it wouldn't have worked. You can see that just nothing happened in 30 and nothing really in 31. They were partials again, but the totals were going to be in 32, a pack of them, so very interesting. 32 Common Era again. Okay, so, and he's stating it's Wednesday, and you're going to say, well, no, it can't be Wednesday because I looked at the Gregorian calendar. Well, that's not what you should look at because they were calculating then on the Julian calendar. So it looks like a Wednesday and looks like there was a moon. And so once again, this is from Supernatural by Design. And he's stating, no, you're not looking at the correct calendar. You're working off Gregorian. It was Julian based. You have to calculate the 2 days off. So instead of a Monday, April 14th, it's a Wednesday in 32 Common Era. And then you've got the right day count. So once you reconcile the differences between Gregorian and Julian, and keep in mind, we're still using the Julian calendar for certain Navy functions. So the main thing is also a wicked generation, an adulterous generation asks for a sign. No, none will be given but the sign of the prophet Jonah. Just as Jonah was in 3 days, 3 nights in the belly of the sea monster, so will be the Son of Man 3 days and 3 nights. It only really works, that's Matthew 24:38-40. It only really works coming from Wednesday. It doesn't work in any of the other years. So now I'm holding to this, especially with Moses now and Yeshua and more things. I mean, it just matches up consistently, people. Okay? So we've got, once again, 32 Common Era. You can see it's a total eclipse. You can see where it was. It was over Israel, and it was, they would have been able to see it in Israel in the fall there. But it's interesting. These are solar cycles, and it's very interesting to see that. So once again, it's a it's interesting. Okay, so his dynasty will last forever. His throne, like the sun before me, it will be established forever, like the moon, which remains a faithful witness in the sky. Psalm 89:37-38. It's a faithful witness of this. So why wouldn't God? Okay, so let's throw it back in their laps and say, so what if your archaeological dates are perfect and you're always right and everything? And yeah, the fighting fundamentalists are coming after me, but that's fine. Why wouldn't God have these appointments all set up, Passover, blood moon eclipse, and Yeshua dies and resurrects during that time frame? Why wouldn't it be Moses? Why wouldn't it be other things like that? Why wouldn't he use these things to be like a faithful witness in the sky? Why wouldn't he do that? Okay, so let's continue on. This is interesting. This is pagan on the left-hand side, but let's just cite it so you can see. These are opinions. So on the left-hand side, the Babylonian Enuma and Anu and Enlil, and so I study Enlil all the time from what's going on with the sun. It's interesting that they named it after that. But these are the gods Anu, Nua, and Enlil, stated in the blood moon on lunar eclipse, ominously foretold the death of a king. Well, why wouldn't that be the case in 32 Common Era when Yeshua died? Why wouldn't that be an ominous sign of the death of a king? Now, it's a pagan source, but it's very interesting to see that. Okay? And then on the right-hand side, this is from rabbis. The Gemara says in Sukkah 29a, I've been citing this for like 20 years, says 2 things about solar eclipses. The first is that the solar eclipses are a bad omen for the whole world. And we had that back on April 8th of 2024. And we also had it in 2017. And we've had those solar eclipses, bad omen for the whole world. Another opinion is that they're a bad omen for Gentiles when lunar eclipses are a bad omen for Jews. Possibly. The death of Yeshua was not exactly a good thing, other than the resurrection was wonderful. So basically, what I'm getting at is the Jews' calendar is lunar and the Gentile calendar is solar. Additionally, the Gemara says the four things that cause solar eclipses are deceased head judge who was eulogized insufficiently. Interesting. Okay, from these are solar eclipses. So I don't know. I've never studied any of these things, but obviously people are aware that these signs have meaning, and it's been going on for, if it's Enlil, it goes back 5,000 years. Okay, so what's going on with the sixth seal? Why am I talking about eclipses? Because I want you to see the syncing between the blood moon eclipse and the micronova in the verbiage and then with my physics. Okay. Then I watched as he broke the sixth seal, and there was a great earthquake. I'm stating that as the sun is coated by dust, it will have this problem where it'll just break the dust will unlock the crust, and the mantle will break free. That's just going to cause this movement. It may only be an inch worldwide, but it will move in a great earthquake. Okay. And that's caused by the sun. It isn't caused by just a standard earthquake in one location, and it isn't caused by a volcano. It's caused by the sun driving this. Okay. It's physics, people. The sun turned black as, and this is a stage of micronova, as sackcloth. And the words in the Greek are sakos trichonos. That's goat's shiny mohair. That's angora, the fluffy stuff. Okay. Like a garment worn in mourning. So I want you to think about it as the sun is wearing a mourning garment, which would be dust and ashes, and it would be a goat garment. That's what we're going to see in the next slide. And the full moon became blood red. So it's wearing its garment of blood red. Both of them are wearing garments of something, okay? It's not describing what you see on the earth. It's what's occurring in the heavens physics-wise, okay? The stars fell from heaven to earth. That would be the dust event. When the micronova blows, the dust accumulation event we'll see little fig-like droppings from the skies, okay? It'll be massive. Just as a fig tree drops its probably bitter winter timing figs when shaken by a strong wind. Okay, so that's Revelation 6, 12 through 13, and that's wrath is coming after that. So why wouldn't there be this time of mourning for the sun and the moon in the time frame of wrath coming? Why not? Because they are, a sign in the heavens. So once again, you can see it. The sun is black like sackcloth. It doesn't say that the earth is black like sackcloth, or the moon, shines on the earth in some strange way. No, the sun cloaks in sackcloth, sakos trichonos, okay, and the moon cloaks in blood. It literally in the text, and it's oh goodness, genome, and I didn't say that right, but and egoneto, and genome, but it is occurring on those places. Physics-wise, it isn't occurring on the earth. It's something occurring in the heavens. And so you have to look at cosmic physics to see that that's what's occurring. And it looks like it's going to be goat-like because that's typical of sakos trichonos, especially an Angora goat, which is trichonos. Okay? So you can see what things mean. Trichonos, again, hairy, that is made of hair, mohair, goat's hair. Okay. So, and that still works out with other ways too. So what's coming at some point in time is this galactic current magnetic sheet. It's like a Swiffer duster. Okay. It comes through in spirals and it hits the planets or the sun or the moon and it leaves dust on it. And then that is sloughed off in an explosion. So Swiffer dusters using static electricity to attract dust. The duster's polyester fibers create a static charge when rubbed together, which causes dust particles to align, that their positive and negative charges are near each other. The dust is then electrostatically stuck to the pad or to the sun, but the sun has enough energy, it's going to explode the dust off it. Okay, so this is from Ben Davidson. It's now called Space Weather News, but it was Suspicious Observers. It's still Ben, and that's from July 29th of 2024. We know we have 100 different reports proving that this current sheet of dust is coming through. So now here's the slide where I want you to see it. This is from a lady named Heather Riggleman, and she writes for one of the translation systems, and I'm blanking on the name of it. It's an app. Why do people wear sackcloth and dust in the Bible? Okay, so sackcloth and ashes were an outward sign of mourning, repentance, or abasement. It was a type of cloth made of black goat's hair that was thick, rough, and coarse material. It was uncomfortable to wear, but durable, and later it was used as a sack. It was also used in an outward sign of mourning and submission, and it matches scripturally, guys. This is what you would wear during those time frames in the Bible. The ashes were an outward sign that signaled to everyone absolute grief. So you need the sackcloth and the ashes. I'm saying the sun is wearing sackcloth, and the ashes will be the dust that's coming to the sun, okay, from the galactic current sheet. This is physics, okay? It's not occurring on the earth, it's occurring out there. And we have proof of all of this with physics. So we came to the beginning when Genesis, when God formed Adam from the dust. Okay, so that's what she's linking it to. That's interesting. Okay, sure. So basically later God tells Adam, by the sweat of your brow, you have food to eat until you return to the ground in which you were made, and you become dust as you return. So dust, you were made from dust, you will return to dust. It's a far in the Hebrew, just so you're aware. Because of the symbolism of dust and ashes became a sign of humility before God. Like dust, the ashes were an outward sign that signaled to everyone absolute grief, desolation, and ruin. When someone was deeply grieved by their actions against and in a state of repentance, they often would wear sackcloth and ashes, just like the sun will wear sackcloth and dust. Okay? So, I'm telling you, the galactic magnetic current sheet sounds like the sixth seal. It sounds like the fourth trumpet. It sounds like the fourth bowl. It is dust coming through 3 times, and it is sackcloth and ashes dust. Okay? The first time for sure sackcloth, but there is still the wrath coming in each one of these signs. And so when you see this as a physics, a cosmological physics effect, and not something earthly, it's not all about us. It's about God causing this to us because we've sinned enough times, and time's up. Okay? So the first one isn't so bad, but by the time we get to the third dust effect, in the fourth and the fifth bowls, it burns people with fire. That's a major micronova. People were burned by the intense heat, and yet they curse the name of it's bad. It's bad. So all of these signs work out with physics, people, not just with an earthquake here or a volcano there. It's physics. It's cosmological physics. It's also biblical physics. For the stars, the constellations in the sky will no longer give their light. The sun will be dark when it rises, and the moon will no longer shine. I will punish the world for its evil, and the wicked for their iniquity. I will end the arrogance of the proud and humble the insolence of the tyrants. Isaiah 13:10 and 11. Interesting. Okay? Continuing on with more Isaiah. They will be assembled like prisoners in a dungeon and shut up in prison to be punished many years. Then the moon will be confused and the sun ashamed. For Adonai Tezvod will rule on Mount Zion and on Jerusalem with his glory manifest to the rulers of his people. That's Isaiah 24. Okay? Isaiah 60. No more will the sun be your light by day, nor will the moonlight shine on you. Instead, Adonai will be your light forever, and your God, your glory. No longer will your sun go down, and the moon no longer wane, for Adonai will be your light forever. Your days of mourning will end. Isaiah 60, 19 through 20. Interesting. Okay, and there will appear signs in the sun, moon, and stars. There just will. And on earth, and nations will be in anxiety. But the signs appear up there because they're coming from God. So look for physics. Don't look for stuff down on the earth so much. Those aren't the signs. And then the Son of Man comes. Yeshua comes right after that. That's Luke 21, 25 through 27. So there are signs, no doubt about it. There's Joel 2:31 signs, Revelation 6:12 signs, Matthew 24:29 signs. I want you to see that when Moses is building the tabernacle, he's making hide coverings of trichonos. So it's hairy coverings, okay? And Exodus 36:14. Now this is the Septuagint again. So coverings of hair, coverings of trichonos. And then Zechariah is interesting because it's talking about the disgraced prophets, and they shall put on a hide covering of trichonos, okay, of hair. And it matches up with the Hebrew, which is way down on the bottom, and you can't read it. I can barely read it. But basically, a seir would be goat's hair, coarse hair, that would match up with this Zechariah 13:4. So I put a couple of words in there. And then the sacrifices to demons, Siririm, okay, and there's a glottal stop. And so basically there are sacrifices made to them, and these things have to stop. And right now, the Super Bowl is coming up tonight, and that's kind of a sacrifice to the demon gods. So, but I want you to see the connection between goats, goat demons, Azazel, and putting on sackcloth and things like that, because you're wearing the goat's hair, the shaggy goat's hair. And it's also on Numbers 28, which is really interesting, but that would take me like 4 days to go through with you, so I'm not going to do that. Continuing on then. Why am I having problems with this? Oh, here it is. The two witnesses. I made this slide up. This is grok. But I wanted you to see, those are supposed to be menorahs. They're Hanukkahs. But the two witnesses of the blood moon coming up, or of the sun and the moon. Two different types of witnesses. I will give power to my two witnesses. They will prophesy for 1,260 days, dressed in, what is it? Sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two menorahs standing before the Lord of the earth. So between 6 and 11, there's a combination of this sackcloth going on, and so that's Sakos. And so they're in mourning too. They're in the midst of the Great Tribulation, but they will be in mourning for what's coming to the earth. Okay, so those are the two witnesses, and that's an interesting picture. That you can argue with the fact that there's too many lamps on the lampstand, but you know what? It's still a really pretty picture. Well done. Okay, so continuing on, the patterns are coming up, people. There are solar eclipses that are very interesting from April 8th of 2024 and back to 2017 and 2023, but also the patterns are starting up again in March of 2025 and moving forward, and they seem to match up with patterns in terms of which tribe they're matching with, which banner. And so we're walking forward in these years, and we're marching in sequence. It will accelerate soon. The banners will be out. And I want to quote something from the Song of Solomon because it's very eschatological. You're as beautiful as Tirzah, my love, as lovely as Jerusalem, but formidable as an army marching under banners. Turn your eyes away from me because they, Gog, overwhelm me. Your hair is like a flock of goats streaming down Gilead. Interesting. Song of Solomon 6:4-5. So you can see the end times connection between the armies, the banners, and these signs coming up. Okay? Song of Solomon is eschatological. It's not about sex. So, okay, moving forward, Soros cycles. This is from Supernatural by Design. Again, you can see the video there, Second Passover Prophecy 2032. He's a rapture guide, but it's really good research. And then he spins off into space with the rapture, but in the date setting. But I want you to see that these particular dates coming up in 2032 don't match. They match with Second Passover. That's what he's stating. That's interesting, okay? It's a month late. And then Cheshvan 14 or 15 is a month late too, but that's not a good Sukkot. That's the evil, wicked Sukkot of Jeroboam. So just interesting how they've always been kind of in a pattern before. These are different patterns, and it's a judgment pattern. And I'm arguing maybe a second Passover or the false Sukkot might be part of that pattern. So it's just interesting. And the two witnesses again, and the sun and the moon and things like that. Here's the 30 days. I want you to see it from Daniel 12:11-13. From the time of the regular burnt offering is taken away, and the abomination that causes desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. There is your extra 30 days. Normally, you would look at it as 1,260 days and 1,260 days. But here he's saying 1,290, extra 30 days. That seems to be interesting compared to what I just showed you here. Second Passover and Heshvan. That's 30 days late, both of those signs. So 1,290. Second Passover, Heshvan 15, I don't know. Blessed will be anyone who waits and arrives at the 1335. I don't want to tackle that today. But you go your way until the end comes. That's where we're close to right now. Then you will rest and rise for your reward at the end of days. Acharith HaYomim. Interesting. So where are we? We're in the birth pangs. We're not in the tribulation or the great tribulation. I'm assuming, well, Ryan, oh goodness, Ryan, he's a friend. He's stating that we're in the fifth seal, moving on to the sixth seal. And so I agree with him. The next blood moons should be interesting to watch. Just watch them, people, just watch and see what's going on, because it's a wedding coming up. You can't be naked. You can't be in dirty garments. You're going to be kicked out if that's the case. And you really want to accumulate something beautiful to wear. And that's the beauty of Yeshua with these clean garments. So work on that. It's a wedding. Get ready for your wedding. So be blessed. Thank you very much for your time. I'm not sure exactly why it moved to that slide, but here we go. And I just need to shut this off. And unfortunately, there it is. God bless. Be blessed. Bye-bye.